If you're new to gardening, then Cosmos is a really good place to start. So I'm going to show you some of my favourite varieties, and I'm also going to show you some that we're trialling to see whether we're going to add them to next spring's seed offering. These are double Cosmos. This one is Snow Puff. They're about 90 centimetres tall, so they are a really good size for almost everybody and almost every use. Being such a fan of the double varieties, I had to trial double click cranberries, which I really love. I can also see we've got a few dead heads in here, so I think I'm going to grab a trug, but I also think I might pick a cheeky vaseful. Is another double, 90 centimetres tall again, and this is double click rose, and the flowers vary ever so slightly, which I absolutely love. Before we start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of buckets of fresh, clean water. The water needs to be so clean that you would feel happy drinking out of it. The reason is your flower stems, if you think of those as little drinking straws, they are the flower's drinking straw. Now, if there's any debris floating around in the bucket, it could accidentally get stuck to the bottom of the flower's drinking straw and block the flow of water, which means that your flowers would then wilt. The other reason is if the water is and dirty, it can make the flowers rot earlier than they otherwise would have. So clean vases, clean buckets, they extend the vase life of your flowers. Got my fresh, clean water. The next thing I need is sharp snips, because I want to make sure that I cut the stem and not crush it. If I crush the stem, again, just like blocking them with debris in the bucket, it's going to restrict the flow of water up to the flower and could result in premature wilting. Very much like the dahlias, the flower stalks tend to come in threes in the Cosmos, so you'll get 1, 2, 3, one in the middle, that one's already gone, and then the two on either side will flower. And then rather than just cutting them down and making a stump, what I then do is I cut the whole lot all the way back down to here. Now, when I cut my Cosmos stems, I tend to cut out the whole branch rather than just short flower heads, because very soon you won't be able to keep up with them. And if you don't keep up with them, the plant will think it's done its job and start to shut down. So I'm going to show you how I cut my Cosmos, and then that way you'll get flowers all the way through to the frosts. Now, basically, all of the flowers are really out now on this branch, apart from a few little buds. And if you just deadhead it and leave those little buds there, they tend to look a bit pathetic and they don't make a good cut flower. So I've removed it right down. My bucket of water is going to go straight into the water. I've removed it right down there. And then that will make sure that the buds lower down the plant wake up and stop it turning into like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm going to deadhead this guy here because he's over, and I wouldn't sell this stem to a client. This I would keep for myself or discard it. You really want just the beautiful unblemished stems if you're going to be selling them professionally. I've also removed the foliage that would have sat below the waterline to make sure that the water stays crystal clear. Picking Cosmos for cut flowers to sell, then you need to pick them before they're pollinated. Let me show you some examples now. Right on cue, this is perfect. So this flower is open and it is busy being pollinated. Now, once the flower is pollinated, it very quickly will start dropping its petals and die. So you don't want a pollinated flower to be picked if you are selling your cut flowers. You want something that hasn't yet had the pollen emerge. So you can see the pollen is still locked down in this flower. Can you see it looks like little buttons, where here you can very clearly see little pollen florets. So as long as the flower has started to open, then you can pick it. But once it's fully open, and this guy's probably got to it before you have, then you want to avoid those. But there's nothing wrong with keeping those for yourself. If you're cutting flowers for wraps, especially if you're going to be making them up a day or two in advance, you probably want to pick them just as the buds have started to crack, and that will give you the longest vase life because they will unfurl in the vase. However, if you're cutting for a wedding, which is the following day, you probably want to pick them when they're a bit more open, so they're looking at their very, very best on the special day. Not that you have any weddings at the minute, but lots of you are doing your own wedding flowers, so I suggest what you do is have a bit of an experiment and cut them at different stages and then measure the amount of time it takes for them to open in the house, and that will really help you next year. Example for you here, so you can see that this flower is open and pollinated, this one is open and pollinated, and this one is spent. So I won't cut the flowers here because all of the buds, I suppose apart from this one, is open. As I say, that's going to make a really ugly little flower, so I'm going to cut it all the way down here, take the whole stem out, and then that will encourage budding further down the plant to keep it really, really bushy. Now I've taken the dead head off. I've got a lovely long stem to fill a wonderful vase. Yes, the pollinators have got to it, but these flowers are for me in the house, so I really don't mind. This one is everybody's favourite. This is Double Click Rose Bonbon. The flowers are enormous. It's very important that you prune this one or cut this one back, like I explained, because if you let 6 or 7 flower buds open on the same stem, it's going to be too heavy for the plant. So make sure that you pick it when the first couple of flowers are open, cut it back, and then let it bush up so it's got some nice strong stems for you. What you might like to see the remaining plant now. So I've thinned it out, I've taken off the biggest flowers, and I've deadheaded the stems. I think there might be 1 or 2 more for me to quickly comb through, and I'll get rid of those. But you can see it's taken away, by taking 2 buckets of flowers, I've taken away none of the view. Look at all those beautiful floral petticoats, so fresh, they almost squeak.